Deborah and I joined Jews for Jesus as missionaries just over 20 years ago, and that's when we were linked up with Christ Church, where I'd been a member as a student, and then when I first worked as an accountant with Price Waterhouse. And we first went as missionaries to Paris in 1992 till 2005. Our 4 children were born in Paris, went to school there, and then we were called back to the UK, and I was director of the work in London till 2010, and for the last 2.5 years we've been based in the Geneva area, and 3 of the children go to French schools, local schools, and Hannah, our eldest daughter, is at school in London. Well, I sum it up in 2 things. One, I suppose, the call is to be a missionary to Jewish people. Most Jewish people, like myself, 35 years ago, had never heard the gospel. And that's Jewish people in Geneva, the rest of Switzerland, Zurich, Lausanne, and the Rhône-Alpes part of France. So that's about 50, 60,000 Jewish people. And then another part of my work, which I really love as well, is a lot of teaching and preaching in churches, where also I meet Christians who've got Jewish friends, and that's often a way of getting to know Jewish people. It's through their Christian friends. Well, when we arrived in Switzerland 2 years ago, we didn't find the house we were looking for in Geneva. We ended up renting a house in a village about 15 miles away in the countryside. I remember Deborah saying to me, "What are we doing living up there? We're Jews, we're missionaries to the Jews. What are we doing there?" And on the house door, the entrance on the doorpost, there was a little mezuzah, which is a Jewish symbol where you put a little parchment of the Torah in. And it turned out that the Swiss farmer's wife is an Israeli, and they live in Lausanne. And we went to a school bring and share meal one evening, and the first week of the primary school back, and sending our child Jessica, our last child, to school. And there in the playground we met a Jewish couple who were tax refugees from France. We met an Israeli lady who's married to a Swiss, and it was just seeing God directing us in that way. Well, I think the most extraordinary thing that's happened is that I'm a member of a private Jewish circle of about 100 Jewish people. We have food, and then more food, and then there's a speaker who gives a talk. And it's rather exceptional that I, as a missionary to Jews and the director of Jews for Jesus in Switzerland, should be accepted as a member of this group. And a year ago I was asked to speak on Jews believing in Jesus. I now have a Jewish Christian friend who's an academic, an intellectual and academic, who's an Hebrew specialist, who's a former yeshiva student, that's a rabbinic student. He's an Israeli citizen, he lives in Switzerland, he comes along with me, and we're looking to bring the gospel to this group. I think a key thing to pray for is getting to know a number of Jewish people, often members of synagogues, mainly atheists, so it's more Jewish culturally, and they're very happy to have a coffee with me to talk. And the prayer really is that their openness to talk would lead to openness of heart to receive the gospel. For the Jewish group I visit monthly, now with this good friend Yohanan Goldman, good Jewish name. The prayer is that these Jewish people who are distinguished members of the community, a couple of rabbis, professor of Judaism, wealthy businessmen, that God would really open their heart, and that some would want to meet up with us in private and really turn to Christ, turn to God. And then on a family basis, if you would pray that God would really, as a family, make us grow in the love and knowledge of Christ. And for Hannah, that she would be at peace doing her GCSEs. She also needs accommodation for next year in London. She's changing schools and needs a home. So those would be the main prayer matters.